Welcome to the Mind of Business Success podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Cramer. Our guest today is Dennison. She's an executive career coach and the owner of Optimized Career Solutions. Welcome to the show, Kara.
Thank you so much, Alicia. I'm happy to be here.
Let's start by talking about your business and what you do so that our listeners have an idea of your area of expertise and a feel for who is this expert that we're going to be listening to for the next 20 to 30 minutes?
Sure. So like you mentioned, I'm an executive career coach. And so what I do, what our ethos is, our why is I help empower high achievers and leaders to live an impactful life. And how I really do that is by teaching and coaching the skills to really bypass the traditional hiring process and get connected to decision makers, people who can help or hire you in order to find your next dream job. Typically through corporate America. I also do some other things on the side, like host a podcast, write for Forbes, and do some business consulting as well. But that's my passion, is really helping people make the money that they're worth.
I love that.
Yeah.
What you just said kind of put up one of those light bulb moments for me. You know, so many people, and it's been a long time since I've been in the whole hiring, being an employee type of thing. But I've always been in leadership roles ever since I was 18. I was the assistant manager at a health food store. I managed a cell phone store. I've always worked my way up into, or was hired directly into, leadership roles when I was working for other people, with a couple of rare exceptions, you know, little small things like that. But when you had said getting to the key decision makers, I don't think most people even think about that when they're submitting a resume, even when we're talking about like a dream job. It is kind of just hope and pray, right? So get your resume as good as you possibly can, make sure you have a nice cover letter, and then just hope that they interview you.
Yeah. And that's typically, especially if you haven't been in a job search for a while, and then you add in, I don't know, a worldwide pandemic on top of it to complicate things, right? And that's who most of the people that I work with are, at that leadership level. And then you get a little stagnant, or you see other people either get laid off during the pandemic and having to go find jobs, or maybe you have, or you're part of the Great Resignation, where you've gone through this whole big worldwide thing, and you realize maybe I'm not happy anymore. Maybe I need to go find something where I'm making an impact and I'm feeling fulfilled. And then you're like, okay, now I got to go do a job search. How do I do this? Go to Google, like, okay, got to get my resume, dust that old thing off, and start hitting the job boards. The reality, though, is that you only truly have between a 2 to 3% chance of landing an interview if that's your only strategy. And no one really talks about this. And that's why I'm so passionate. I come from a corporate recruiting background, and I implemented the applicant tracking systems. I saw lots of great qualified candidates get automatically rejected from those applicant tracking systems. And it creates this huge mindset issue for people, especially leaders, who are going through a job search and they've got a lot of experience, and now they're hitting the job boards and applying over and over and tweaking their resume. And I got to hit the keywords and all that other stuff. And now they're feeling rejected and anxious and depressed and frustrated in their job search, wondering what's wrong with them. And there's nothing really wrong with them, wondering if they have to take a step back. And what the problem is really the traditional job search process of applying through the job boards, because there's things like recruiters who are putting together those job descriptions, which aren't accurate of what the hiring manager and decision maker really needs in the role. Then you have these applicant tracking systems that are scanning you out automatically. And so sometimes people apply and they get a rejection letter minutes later. And then if you do get an interview, it's usually with a recruiter who doesn't understand your full impact. And then you're even thinking about the fact that those leadership positions, only about 30 to 40% of those are even posted on those job boards. So what I like to say is you're kind of playing the Indeed wishing well game with your job search. So what we do is we teach you kind of how to get out of that lottery game of your career and instead take control of your career and get directly connected to the people who can help or hire you in your job search, because it changes the game. If you can have an effective networking conversation or get an employee referral into that company, it increases your likelihood of an interview by 15 times. And so that's what we're really passionate about, is that especially this day and age, it's about relationships, it's about networking, it's about getting in that way.
I want to talk about this from a slightly different vantage point, and that is for our business owners who are listening to this. One of the themes in all sorts of different groups that I'm a part of is, what is your biggest pain point in business? And when you start to get into more established businesses, it's quality employees, quality employees, quality employees. Now, you are helping high quality talent land a job that they are going to love and excel at. On the other side of that is the business owner, the company that is going to benefit from their passion, their skills, their strengths, their expertise. And as business owners, we all want great employees. We want people who care about their position, they care about the company. We trust them. We trust them to take good care of our clients and customers, to take good care of other employees. It doesn't take much in terms of one bad apple, to wreak havoc inside of a business. So when we're talking about taking these talented individuals and helping them to really get their head straight, get their head in the game about getting in with executives, people within the organization, to start to create those meaningful relationships. When an employee goes the extra mile or a prospective employee, I should say, goes the extra mile to do those types of things, as a business owner or as a hiring executive, I mean, that really warrants attention, in my opinion. And that's exactly what we want. We want go-getters. We want leaders. We want people who genuinely want that position. So I love for you to talk about that. Like, what are your thoughts on the other side of the spectrum and how those types of relationships are, I think they're key performance indicators, right? I mean, that is the sign of somebody who is a real go-getter.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I recently hired a new marketing manager. And what I really loved about this hiring process is that she came to me and I had a project that I needed done. And she came to me with ideas on how not to only strategize this project, because it was something that I wasn't an expert in, right? You hire, so for me and a good leader, what I always believe good leaders do is they hire people who are smarter than them in areas that you're lacking, because that's how you make the team as strong as possible, right? So I hired this woman, and she came in and did this amazing job. And in that project, she was pointing out areas where I can improve in other different things. And what I loved about that is she was thinking globally for my business, not in just that one project. But when it comes to the job search process, that's kind of what a hiring manager or decision maker is really looking for is, hey, can I bring someone in who has the initiative, who has the innovation, who's going to buy into the vision and make my team better? And so how are you going to find that person? Does it come from a stack of resumes where you can't really have a conversation with the document? You can see if it's a well-written resume, hopefully you can see the results and their achievements, and you can see how they've brought results in the past, and that will give you an indication to make you want to have a conversation with that person. But when it comes really down to, hey, I have a hole in my department, I am drowning because who's going to fill in? I'm going to fill in. I'm the leader. I'm the one who's doing all of this work. I don't have time to sort through all these resumes. I don't want to have to talk to a whole bunch of people. I have this one person who's contacting me on LinkedIn. I checked out their LinkedIn profile. They're posting amazing content about the upcoming trends. And I'm just going to use marketing as an example because that's what I'm talking about, marketing, right? And they're showcasing how they've brought results and they want to have a conversation with me. I had a 15-minute networking conversation with me. They've brought solutions to the table. They've asked me thoughtful questions. What am I going to do? Spend 6, 10, 12, 20 hours researching all these resumes? Or I'm going to have another 30-hour-minute conversation with this person who already brought value. Yeah, I want to hire this person because they're already bought in. They're eager. They're hungry. They want to bring value to me. It's a whole different ballgame, right? So when it comes to both sides of the table, the conversation, whether you're a candidate trying to find a quote unquote dream job, you want to work for a company that you're aligned with. And when you're a decision maker, you want to find a candidate who's excited, who can bring results and who can hit the ground running. And at the end of the day, what it is it's a mutually beneficial fit. And a lot of times candidates forget that. They just go into an interview like, oh, please pick me. I just need to answer the interview questions correctly. And decision makers kind of forget that too. So you both have things that you're bringing to the table. You're paying them, you're providing a sustainable salary so that they can go live an impactful life, and they're bringing skills and experience to the table. And you want that to be a beneficial fit for both of you.
I love that.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about some of your other passions.
Okay.
Because I think that they're very relevant to this audience. You have a podcast. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I have a podcast. It's called the Atta Girl Podcast. It is part of the Girls Media. The Girls Media has a fantastic community on Facebook. It's called the Girls Community. It's only for females. Sorry, gentlemen. But what I love about this is it's a supportive community that I've been a part of for years. And they had a podcast called the Atta Girl Podcast that was hosted by one of the leaders called Meredith. And it was all about career advancement, women empowerment, and entrepreneurship. All three things that I am super, super passionate about. And when they needed someone to come and take it over, they asked me, and I said, of course, I'd never turn down an opportunity like that. And so I've taken it over at the beginning of the year. And what I talk about is ways to advance your career, whether it's in a job search or getting that promotion, negotiating your salary, things like that, or entrepreneurship, which is something that I am really passionate about. I feel like I am straddling that line, right, between corporate or entrepreneurship. Previous to this year, I was partnered with another career coach, and we built that program that we were presenting to our clients to a $1.4 million program in just about a year and a couple months. So that was really exciting. I love things like building your business and turning your side hustle into your 9 to 5. And then women empowerment. How can women juggle all of the hats and the roles that they are wearing, and how can they be their best selves and things like that? So we talk a lot about mindset, imposter syndrome. We just did a episode about imposter syndrome and the 5 types of imposter syndrome, things like that. So I absolutely love doing that. We have a weekly episode. It's about 20 to 30 minutes every single week. And it's absolutely phenomenal. I love being a part of that group.
Awesome. And where can our listeners connect with that podcast?
Yeah, it's just the Atta Girl Podcast. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Google, everywhere that you can get it. It's just ATTAGIRL podcast. We're also on Facebook, Atta Girl Podcast on Facebook, and on Instagram, @attagirl_podcast.
Excellent. We had to throw that in.
It's awesome. It's fun. Yeah.
Now I want to turn the tables a little bit again,
Sure.
and I want to talk about you as the business owner.
Sure.
So one of the things I always ask my guests is something with your own mindset that you had to overcome in order to get to where you are today. And I'd love to find out from you what one of those things were.
Yeah. So mindset is huge. And I tell this to all my clients too, when it comes to their job search, that mindset is 90% of the battle. And I find that this is true with entrepreneurship as well. So when I first started this entrepreneurship journey, I had a lot of mindset issues to overcome. A lot of times people don't believe this about me, but I'm actually an introvert at heart. And I struggle with a lot of things. I had especially when I first started, a lot of anxiety, panic, and depression. So moving into an entrepreneurship and the CEO role and dealing with a lot of high achievers, people at the highest levels of their careers, director, VPs, and C-suite people, it was very anxiety producing for me. Talk about imposter syndrome, right? um, so it took a lot of intense work and inner healing for me to overcome that anxiety. And something that I don't talk about very often, but my anxiety presented in this vomiting syndrome. And every morning I would wake up and I would throw up because I was so anxious about showing up as my best self for some really high achieving professionals. And so it took a lot of months and months of therapy and working through and doing some NLP work in order to overcome and work on my mindset to be the best version of myself. And so how do I show up every day as I am today? Well, one, it's a continual growth process. It wasn't a one and done, like, oh, look, I had a therapy session, I'm healed. No. So it's one of those things where I continually work on myself, meditate every single day, and get into a rock solid routine. So having a morning routine where I do have that meditation and continually work on myself as things pop up. Asking myself, why are those things popping up? And I've come a long way. I never thought that I would be here today where I'm not throwing up, where I can stand confidently. I can speak on stages and have podcasts like this and have my own podcast. It's really, really exciting, but it's helped me be a more empathetic coach as well, because there are so many people who are making big, scary changes, not only in their career or in their business, that have imposter syndrome as well, or who have anxiety or panic and depression. And the great thing is that you can still do amazing and great things, even when you are freaking out inside or have anxiety. It's finding the coping mechanisms or finding the healing or the right team or therapist with you to help you overcome and find the tools to cope with that. So for me, it's reading a lot of books about expanding your mindset, about expanding your thinking, about thinking about the future, what you want for the future, and really focusing on that and setting goals and celebrating the wins when you have them.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
It is something that a lot of people can relate to, even if they don't have such extreme physical symptoms.
Yeah.
I see it with people across the board.
Yeah.
And it is surprisingly common. A lot of people do not think that once you achieve a certain level of external success that you're still dealing with some of these things. And I'm here to tell you, I work with a lot of very successful business owners. They are dealing with these things. And it is very common if you pivot in your business, if you are up leveling, if you are doing something new that you've never done before, you can be successful doing your thing and doing it very, very well. And then you might add to your business. Maybe you decide, I've always wanted to be a public speaker, and now I am going to go out, I'm going to step outside of my comfort zone, and I'm going to do that. And that stirs up all sorts of fears, doubts, insecurities, and self-imposed limiting beliefs. And it is an ongoing journey. We have to just keep working through these things. And I say it over and over and over again. Anybody who's listened to multiple episodes, they've heard me on my soapbox, but it really is an ongoing journey. And if you are putting your foot on that accelerator and you are breaking through to new levels of success over and over and over and over and over again, you've got to have a good, solid strategy to work on your inner game, because the faster you're going, the more of that inner stuff is going to get stirred up. And you've got to be able to work through that as quickly and gracefully as possible, because it can really derail you.
That's absolutely. My husband goes, man, you are the fastest adapter I've ever met. And I'm like, it's because you gotta go as quick as possible. And I think talking about it is one of the most important thing, because so many people, I mean, 82% of people have imposter syndrome, and not a lot of people talk about it. And I think one of the key pivotal moments for me in my entrepreneurship journey was actually talking to someone about their resume. They were at one of the highest levels at one of the top 4 accounting firms. And as I was talking about all their achievements and putting it into the resume, I'm sitting in my mind going, oh my God, this is so cool that I get to talk to some badass people like this. And then he goes, Kara, I can't believe we're even doing this. Like, I have no achievements. No one's going to want to hire me. And I'm sitting there going, how are we having 2 different thought processes here? And it was such a pivotal moment for me to think, this guy who makes hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, does incredible things at one of the top firms. How is he having imposter syndrome? And I'm sitting here going, I can't believe he's talking to me. Like, and it's true. And no one talks about it. And that's why I try and share my story as much as possible, because I know people see me sometimes as I grow, and I've been told, man, you must have your shit together all the time. And I'm like, no, we're all figuring it out, and we're just growing and adapting and moving forward and getting to the next level and doing it all again over and over.
That's so true. So true.
Yeah.
And I think this conversation is going to really resonate with a lot of people. I've heard so many people use the term imposter syndrome, and some people don't know what it is. But it has kind of become almost like a buzz term, especially for business owners and people who are at higher levels in their career. You know, you're not going to hear so much about that when somebody is maybe the manager at McDonald's, but it's still important, I think, for us to just process it as this is just part of being human, right? So don't get hung up on the label. Don't get hung up on giving yourself a diagnosis. You're going to bump up against these things. We are conditioned by our society, by culture, by our families, with all of these beliefs. And when we are living life and we're stepping outside of our old comfort zone and our old self-image, we have an internal conflict. That's the way I like to look at it. It's just an internal conflict, right? And everyone is seeing other people's best foot forward side, right? You know, so it's so much easier to look at someone and say, wow, they're doing really good, because that's all you see, than it is to say, I wonder what's really going on in their head. I wonder what's happening at home. You know?
Yeah. And social media has kind of not helped that, like, you know, the perfect Instagram models and all that other stuff. And you're like, man, I wish I could have that life. But I always try and keep the 80-20, you know, mind and rule. Like, they always show the 20%, but you never know what's going on with the rest of the 80%. So try and keep that in mind too.
Yes, exactly. The key takeaway here is you're not alone. If you're bumping up against that stuff, you are so not alone. And it does not have to be a roadblock. It can just be a small little stone they have to step over. Anyone who's achieved anything has had to do it over and over and over again.
And the good news is every time you do it, the stones get smaller and smaller, and each time is a learning experience. Yes. So it's all about the journey, you know?
I always say it gets easier.
That's true. That is so true. Thank God.
So, Kara, where can our listeners connect with you?
I am almost everywhere. So my website is optimizedcareersolutions.com. I am on Facebook. My Facebook page is Optimized Career Solutions. On Instagram, Optimized Career Solutions. I'm also on TikTok. I am kind of blowing up on there pretty quickly. So my TikTok handle is Kara Dennison SPHR. On LinkedIn, I'm linkedin.com/IN/Kara Dennison SPHR. Connect with me anywhere. I would love to connect with any of your listeners. It would be wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing so openly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Alicia.
Oh, thank you. And thank you to all of our listeners. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do so. And until next time, we will see you in the next episode.